Let's go, guys. Welcome back to the Light Warriors Unleashed podcast, episode 27, a solo round episode where I just dive into some questions that have been running through my energy field over the last week, bring it to the surface. Let's talk it through. Let's move it through. And I leave you on the edge this week of consideration. What are you really desiring to embody in your life? How are you choosing to move through? And how are you bringing this duality and merging it together in your world? We're going to talk all about this duality energy and this embodiment of, can we really hold peace in the chaos? Can we? And is this actually why we are here and what we're meant to do? For those that don't know, my name is Colleen Lindberg, and welcome. If you are brand new to the podcast, super happy to have you here. Everything for me is about leaning into truth, having conversations of truth, talking about it through different ways, different industries. And in this podcast, I solo round you to be able to consider a few things in your life. How are you leaning in to this duality in your world? But also to, have you actually considered being in the center of it instead of pushing against it? Take a listen, and I can't wait to serve you in this week. And if you are feeling it right before we get going, take a photo of it, share it out and tag me, send it to a friend, give us a 5-star review, whatever you feel like doing in connection with this, because the more people that share it, the more people that own this, the more people that move it out into the world, the more people get to listen to this and the more people change. And that is really the objective. So with no further ado, episode 27, Light Warriors Unleashed podcast. All right, guys, I am super stoked to serve you today in this energy. When I was tapping in to lean into this podcast yesterday, literally, and for those of you that are new here, welcome to my world. I do everything channeled. So everything is in the purity of light in this moment of time where humanity needs, let's say, an infusion of light, or we need to have this conversation to move through something, or we're desiring change in our life, and this will help us move through it. So today, this podcast episode is all around the energy of how do we find joy and peace through the crap, literally. And this started in conversation about a week ago with a client of mine. And she is going through her own dynamics of life and moving through her own learning lessons and really expanding in her spiritual pathway, but also in the understanding of a soul mission. And she said to me, what if we are actually really meant to find peace in the trauma, to find peace in the pain while we're going through it, to find the joy even when it's a shit show? And I said to her, this is a powerful, powerful thing. And yesterday, as I was channeling into the Akashic Records program that I'm teaching, I have a certification program that literally is launching in level 1 this next upcoming week, depending on when you listen to this podcast. It will be a reoccurring program. So if you're interested in learning how to even tap into your own records, just send me a message and let me know, and I can get you the new dates of when this is happening again. But I was in the records, literally speaking to the keepers of the records, and the message that they dropped in the introduction to open up this program and open up this level of learning was exactly this same message about how do we find the pulse within us, even in the shitstorms? How do we find the peace and joy, even through the 3D matrix that we're living within? How do we move through the purity of our light, even in the shadow, and shine brighter, even when we're being diminished, and shine brighter, even when we're being tapped down, and shine brighter, even when they don't want us to? Because we are dealing with a lot of distortion, guys. And if you are new to my world, welcome to this conversation. And if you've been here a while and you've listened to other podcasts that I've, leaned into, or you've heard me interview, or you follow me on Instagram, you know this is a thing. But some of you are brand new to this conversation and happened upon this podcast at this exact moment of time for this exact reason. How do we find the peace and the love and the joy, even through the pain and the trauma? It's also interesting. Last week, I was listening to a podcast. So guys, when I go on walks, I try to go on walks every single day. Now, some days I'm challenged, especially when I'm on tight timelines like today, literally needing to record a podcast, get the manuals finished. I've got other executables to get done for clients of mine. Like my day is jam packed around things. I'm teaching a program literally in this short period of time and leaning into that. So walking for me today or a gym workout wasn't in the palette until later if I can fit it in. Now, I did work out Saturday, I worked out on Sunday, today is Monday. Like this is an option in my world. It doesn't have to be a have to in my energetic field. However, when I walk, I love to put on other people's podcasts on my ear. I listen to a plethora of people depending on how I'm feeling that day and the information that I want to integrate into my awareness. I will choose specific people to listen to. So, literally last week, I was listening to a podcast done by Kaylor Betts and Adam Roa. And if you don't know either of them, Kaylor is a very much a freedom fighter up in the Canadian community, speaks truth into the world in a vibration of like own your shit and move through. Adam Roa is a poet who is also a truth speaker and seeker, a different vibration. But Adam was actually saying this in this podcast episode, this exact vibration that I'm leaning into today. He said, what if we were meant to be whole in the pain anyways? What if we were meant to shine our light brighter even through the shadow? What if we were meant to hold the fear and the light at the exact same time? And I went, okay, this is a theme happening in my world. So therefore the theme gets talked about on the podcast. That's how this works, right? So if we look at our lives right now and really dissect the dynamics of our world at this very moment in time, you know that there is a pulse moving through you for something, for change, for transformation, for honoring, for courage, for next moves, next levels, for peace. And maybe some of you are working within all of this, and that's totally cool as well. But there is a theme running in your energy field right now. There is a whisper dropping in for you at this current moment of time. And some of you, it's in stillness, and some of you, it's in rapid growth and amplification. But something is moving through you. And when we move through something and we're growing and changing and shifting and honoring through something, we deal with duality inside of all the spectrums, no matter what. In every aspect of our life, there is duality. Every single soul on earth has a feminine and a masculine energy. Every soul. Every chakra has the exact same thing, as well as twin flame energy. Every single dynamic to how we do life holds a duality within it. And when we lean into this duality of truth and we look at it from the light and shadow perspective, how do we hold pleasure and pain at the same time? And can we? That's the question I want you to feel out in your field, because it actually is possible. And right in the middle of pain and pleasure is being. How do we embody both of these dynamic energies at the same time and still live? That's the question today I want to talk about and ask you, because this is what's happening in the collective. This is what's moving through us. This is the embodiment of polarity and understanding that we are duality. We are duality. That's why we are in this earth experience, to experience duality. If we were not incarnated in these human forms, we would be out in the ethers floating around in our spirit, not even feeling emotions, just doing whatever we're doing up there, floating, okay? Maybe giving fist bumps to our pals that are moving around and saying hey and acknowledging them, right? And I say that like facetiously. I can never pronounce that word. Facetiously. But that is like a truth, right? We jump into these human bodies to come down to have an experience on earth. And some of you guys are sitting in this shit show, allowing the shit show to dictate your life instead of stepping up and taking ownership of the things you need to take ownership of. And guys, I'm not one over here to preach to you, although some days it feels like I preach. I'm here to speak a message into your awareness for you to take whatever you desire from this message and own it and integrate it yourself. So in your life, are you resisting your duality? Are you pushing up against the shadow instead of bringing it into your awareness and honoring it? Then you can clear it later if you desire to. But most of us are running away from. We're running away from our hard masculine edges. We're running away from the fully embodied feminine. We're running away from the shadow inside of us instead of dropping in and doing the work. We're running away from our light because we're like, whoa, that's way too potent for me to hold. We're running away from our missions right now in life because we're like, I don't think I can handle that. You fucking chose it. Yeah, you can handle it. Your soul said, yes, check mark, sign me up right here for this mission. But we're running away from our dualities, not understanding that in the pain and in the pleasure is this beautiful center line where we are and we be. Now, how do we embody both of these at the same time and bring them together to be whole? That is the quest that we're on right now at this moment in time. It's being brought into my awareness to serve you in this today because of the fact that most of us are running. We're on one spectrum trying to live life, I say purposely, trying to live life only over here, instead of looking at and admitting that we have this duality, that we are this too, that in this is the purity of our light as well. We cannot be light without the dark. Guys, we cannot hold our feminine edges until we also hold our masculine drive. All of this plays out, and some of you resist this so hard. Guys, trust me, I get you. I am this. I am the epitome of resisting in this category of duality. I thought I always had to live in one category. When I was all in strategy and all in masculine energy of driving life and hustling life, I lacked the flow. And then one day I said, fuck this strategy. I'm going to go all into flow. So then I floated around for a while. Lost track of things, but that's okay. Because when divine timing wants it to align, it will. Hello. Anyone else feel this way? Until I took both of them, merged them together to flow in a strategy and be in a strategy and honor a strategy behind the scenes as I moved and created in my flow, game over. But for so long, I thought, oh my God, I got to flow only. Or, oh my God, it's all about the strategy when both are important. Meeting in the middle of both. Some days we lean in more strategy. Like I'm in a very masculine energy right now, but it's not. Because I'm creating a manual. So you would think it would be. Now I'm in the editing process. However, the creativity and intuition channeled the whole entire thing. And because I learned how to do dictation on Word, it served my soul more because I could channel in real time. Now try editing, channeling. Yeah, it's been a good time trying to insert like commas and periods at the end of sentences because I forgot to say that out loud when I was dictating. Yeah, I'm not a great dictator. I don't like following the rules either, right? So if you've been in my world a while, you know that about me. And if you haven't been in my world a while, welcome to my world of rebellion. I rebel against infrastructures that conform me and other people. And that is a thing for me. But I want to remind you today that can we hold peace and chaos at the same time? Can we? We can. But we need to make a choice that in the chaos, we find the peace. And even if shit's hitting the fan around us, we can still align in that peace at those moments of time. So I did a podcast, one of my first, I think it was like the third solo episode I did about owning your power. And I talked about a situation that happened for me. And I bring it back up just to reflect on this ability to hold peace in the chaos. So I was at a friend's place, and if you already heard the story, I hope that I give you a different version of it just so that you aren't bored. But I was back in Ontario in March, and I was over at a really tight guy friend of mine's place. And he's my twin flame, for those of you that know that verbiage, but he's also been a rock in my life for a long time. But we also have a ton of duality. And if you know the twin flame energy, it is restrictive, meaning it's irritable, it is powerful, it is like chaotic, and it's also passionate and aligned. And we hold that energy for each other. But he tested me that day in my resolve of who I am. And he like literally came down on me to tell me like how fake I was, the work I was doing wasn't making an impact, that I was manipulating people, and all this bullshit that he said to me. And normally, Colleen, with this man in my world, would submit, would take it on because that's what I used to do, would see everything he said as truth, and would change who I was to accommodate what he was saying. But new Colleen, who's done the work, knows her truth, owns her power, steps into who she really is now. Because when we were actually in a love relationship back like 10 years ago together, I hid who I really was. I wore a lot of masks in life all the time. And part of my spiritual journey was literally at the beginning was removing the masks and being okay with who I really was. And that was about a 10-year journey, guys. I've been doing spiritual development for 14 years, working with a spiritual mentor. It just passed the 14th year, literally like a week ago. And I've been doing this work for a long time. And I sat at his kitchen island listening to him say all these things. And the first thing I thought to myself was, is this my truth? Okay, that's the first question I asked. Is this my truth? No, it's not your truth. Okay, this is awesome. And if you guys are not watching the video here on YouTube, I'm smiling because I was like, fuck, this is what power feels like real ownership of who you are and knowing your truth inside of you, that even the most tightest relationships in your life cannot sway this truth. Okay. So I sat there with this little smirk. Now I didn't want to smirk too much because he was like super pissed off and angry. And, like I didn't want to poke the bear because that was never my intention. I wanted to honor what he had to say because obviously he has a perception in life that he was passionate about that he needed to share with me. So I was like, okay, I want to honor him and I want him to express all of it. Like, get the fucking shit out, right? Get it out. What do you got to say? So after he was done, I was like, I'm taking my fucking power back. And I said, okay, are you complete? He's like, yeah, I'm done. I'm like, okay, great. It's time for you to listen. Look, you are looking at the lens of me through the lens of who I used to be. And granted, that was warranted. And you knew me back then, but you have no idea who I am now. And in the space of things, you are looking through a lens of someone else's viewpoint of who I really truly am. Now, granted, I've done a lot of work here, but here's what I want to say to you. I know my truth and I know who I am. And all the shit that you just purged out at me is not my truth. And maybe you perceive that about me through the lens that you are working within, but man, oh man, you are being mirrored at. So where in your life is this showing up for you? Because that's not mine. And in the middle of this chaos, because it was chaotic, emotions are high. We have a really tight emotional tie together. We're twin flames, so that energy is super potent and powerful. I held a ground of peace and I held a confidence in who I really was. I walked out that door and obviously still a human in this experience. I went back to my girlfriend's place where I was staying the night and I vented. And her boyfriend was like, holy shit, she is a human. Because sometimes he doesn't see me as a human because I'm this spiritual body floating around, tapping into things, channeling stuff, moving stuff through. And he was like, I got to see the human to her, which was exactly what he needed to see in order for his perception to change, which was really cool that that experience came through. Then I recorded a podcast the next day talking about all of the dynamics of how this moved to hopefully empower someone else to hold their power and their truth. But why I share this again with you today is that even in that chaos and even in those challenges, I held a purity of peace. I was able to hold a purity of truth, even in that dynamic of energy. So I want to say to you today that you can do this because if I can, you can too. So where in your life are you not honoring your duality? Where in your life are you playing so far over in one field that you are not addressing the things that are on the other side? And where in your life can you take these two dynamics and merge them more together into unity instead of in a battle and in a war? This concept is showing up a lot lately, and I have the privilege of going onto a live TV show in July, at the beginning of July, to actually talk with someone about this battle and war energy. And even back in the emerald tablets, which if you guys don't know that term, it's tablets that were buried on the earth plane from Atlantis holding the actual ancient wisdom of truth. And even on these tablets, it says the battle of humans, the warfare that we are going through the light and shadow. And those two words are even dominant back in millions of years ago. Maybe not millions, but definitely thousands of years ago. Those words were there. Because technically we are in a battle, but technically we aren't. And what I mean by that is that, yes, we are battling within to move our light forward, and we are disseminating systems in our world of beliefs, of values, of all that stuff that are no longer serving us, that were not of our truth. And technically, we could say that's a battle. But is it really? It's more so like an awareness or a movement or an embodiment of all. So if we were to take the word embodiment, meaning bring it into my body and execute through my body and bring it into my body and make it real through my physical form, if we took both of those dualities, the spiritual side of light and the spiritual side of shadow, and brought them both in, but merged them together and brought them into a purity of light together as one, way more fucking potent. But most of us are resisting this. We are playing way off in one field or way off in the other field, and we're not merging them and bringing them in. The divine feminine and the divine masculine here, the light and the shadow here, the ego and the spirit here, the fear and the confidence here, right? The clarity and the chaos, the peace and the war, bringing it all together. So imagine life now in this duality and this embodiment and this beautiful train of energy. This is the real work, guys. Yeah, the shadow work is the work too, but it's merging the shadow with the light, right? It's about understanding this duality on earth. We wouldn't be in this earth experience without it, because without both, why the fuck are we here? Right? And we're here to learn, and we're here to grow, and we're here to expand, and we're on a journey. That's what this whole thing is about. However, we are also here to unify ourselves and become whole, which we can effectively do if we choose to. So a lot of questions came up in this podcast recording over the last 15 minutes or whatever time it is that I've been talking to you. There's a lot of questions to ponder. And there's a reason why I brought those into your awareness. Because I can talk to your ear all day long. But unless you start to do the work yourself and become inquisitive and curious and start to question things in your life that no longer feel aligned, or question this conversation I'm having with you today and really bring it into your awareness, nothing will change. We know I can't do the work for you. And I'm really okay not doing the work for you, actually, because I'm doing enough work over here. Okay. But holding in that purity of light, right? And holding in that space of. So I would urge you to consider the questions I asked you today, and what is your truth in them? How does this play out in your field? How does this show up for you in your life, in your world right now? And what do you really desire? And through that, pick some emotions to really start to integrate. Where can you start this if you desire to start this? Where can you move through this if you desire to move through it? How does this look for you? And lead from there. And with that being said, I'm going to leave you this week on this beautiful solo episode. This is episode what? 27. Just crazy, right? Just to think about, here we are at episode 27. I'm just so grateful for this work and so grateful that I get to use this platform to share. So if you're feeling this, like always, guys, please help me share it out. Let's get it out into the world, and let's start to own, really own all the dimensions to who we are. Love you guys. I'll see you soon.